good buzz in conversation today with someone I've always enjoyed talking to for many reasons. One is he's a thinking cricketer. I love the way he plays his cricket. He's also a very feisty thinker. There's something about finger spinners in India. You go back, you see Bishan Bedi, Erapalli Prasanna, Venkatraghavan, where Ashwin, you come from, feisty talker, feisty thinker, proud of your craft. So delighted to have you with us. First thing I want to ask you is what have you been up to?
So I run a few organizations, and one of them is the Cricket Institute that we run. So we are having to work on totality in terms of how the coaches can upscale, and we're also doing some virtual stuff, which is actually keeping me up.
Because that's interesting. A couple of things I want to talk to you about it, because I read about the fact that you're doing this. Two things came to my mind. One is someone who's played at the highest level, in my experience, finds it very difficult to relate to people who are, say, 15, 16, because things come a certain way when you've got 350 test wickets. So how do you relate to people who are just 14, 15, 16, or maybe even younger, just starting out? And second, how do you do it virtually?
So to start this off, I think it's been a journey of how I've started relating to all these young kids. For one, I've really enjoyed doing it. I thought even at the inception of the Cricket Institute, the trigger in my mind about how things work only started me to start this 10 years ago. And when I started doing it, I started realizing that my cricket started to move up. There was more awareness to what I was doing. But also retracing my entire journey of cricket from schoolboy cricketer to being a collegiate cricketer to then playing club and all that. I felt the switch of the button once I started realizing how awareness helped me play the game. My cricket is all about awareness, about connecting the subconscious mind to the real mind, which is making decisions. Yes, people can find it really out of box when I talk about certain things and talk about how my mind works. But I can actually disassociate my mind from decision making to my subconscious mind, which expresses the art when I go onto the field. So when I look back at my younger days of cricket, I've several times thought to myself, oh my God, why couldn't I just snap up this thing of awareness when I was younger? I could have been so much more better and so much more quicker at developing my art from being who I was. How silly mistakes I've made when I played club cricket. But connecting it back, if I hadn't done those mistakes, I wouldn't have connected the dots and become a self-aware cricketer much later.
Yeah, but exactly the point I wanted to make. What works for you is at a subliminal level, not on the art of drift and bite and nip and turn. What works for you, is it easy for them to understand? Linking a subconscious, the conscious, getting aware, situation aware, is it easy for youngsters to grasp these things?
But who really teaches them to do it at a young age? Nobody talks about it. When coaches address a particular cricketer, they pretty much talk a lot of technique. Do cricketers understand technique, Harsha? Tell me. At the age of 10 or 12, does it make sense to talk to a 10-year-old about head falling over? Does it make sense to talk to them about how the leg needs to move? Most parents, when they come and connect with us, they have a lot of questions in terms of asking, why are you not teaching them footwork? Isn't front foot defense important? Isn't back foot defense important? But actually, in all honesty, the first thing that a cricketer must be taught is to hit the ball.
Yes, absolutely.
If they are bowling, it's about trying to create the interest of bowling on the stumps or bowling on one side of the wicket to be able to teach them control. The moment a bowler lets go of the ball from their hand, it's all over. It's not in your control anymore. So what is bowling? Bowling is actually self-awareness.
Interesting you do that, because very few people start to build a second career while their first career is at their peak. So that's something very interesting. And I've met a lot of cricketers over the years who've told me they understood cricket and their game better after they retired. And they said, if only we had thought about the things we think about after retirement while we were still playing. So it's interesting that you're doing that. But this is also the story of your journey. So we've broken it up into 3 points, starting with 3 photographs. So this is the first one. I know you've been to Kings, you've been to Delhi, but for a lot of people, Ashwin is CSK. That is where Ashwin first attracted attention. Not many people knew that he'd bowled hundreds of overs for Tamil Nadu before. It's something about the scenario. People see you in CSK, they say this guy is good. I remember MS Dhoni telling me in one of the 3 or 4 conversations that I must have had with him, because he's such a quiet man. And I think it must have been a game against MI, because he talked about you and Harbhajan and he said, this kid's ready. So you and CSK and MSD, that was the start of the big league, wasn't it? After all those hundreds of overs you had bowled for Tamil Nadu.
Look, Harsha, I always fondly look back at my career of having played club cricket in Chennai very, very dearly. It shaped my entire cricket. It gave me the zeal for excellence in terms of wanting to pick those 5-wicket hauls. Because when you play club cricket in Chennai, there is this sense of urgency for people to move up the ladder and play for Tamil Nadu. And you had it in your vision at the back of your head of being in the headline every single game that you played. So it gave me that. But when I look back at that photo where you sent me about MSD and myself walking, I saw that picture and started talking to Preeti about parenting. Why I say that is because it got me thinking about what all I had to go through to be able to get that stage. Like you rightly said, nobody knows the amount of overs I've bowled. Nobody knows the amount of madness I've gone through. Nobody knows the journey of what I've gone through before going into CSK, because CSK and IPL is a stage, Harsha. You want that stage. A lot of people want to be a part of that stage. Even today, you see very, very young kids walking into our academy also, the parents coming and saying, "Sir, if not India, I want my son to play for an IPL team." Things have changed. Everybody wants to see themselves on TV, on stage. But for me, it was more about recognition. I don't know why I was made that way, but given a choice, I would still be thinking the same way if I have to go 10 years back. I got my contract in 2008 for CSK, and truth be told, I had done my yards in first class cricket, but MS Dhoni didn't know who Ashwin was. Yeah? Muthaiya Muralidharan didn't know who Ashwin was. Matthew Hayden didn't know who Ashwin was. Not did Mike Hussey. None of those big names. The first thought that had entered my head then was, I will show these people that Ashwin is here. I don't know if it's bullish, if it's arrogance. People can talk and relate it to so many things, but that's just the way I was made. If I bowled to Matthew Hayden, I wanted Matthew Hayden in the nets to play me and go back thinking, how am I going to play this guy in the nets the next day? If I bowled to Stephen Fleming or Jacob Oram, that's exactly what sort of an impact I wanted to leave with them. Because nobody was giving me a chance in hell to say, okay, Ashwin will play alongside Muralidharan, or Ashwin will play ahead of Muralidharan. Muralidharan is one of the greatest bowlers to have walked this planet. But I thought, okay, I will get there ahead of him one day. It was the madness of my head, but surely it was also the madness of the process I had put myself through.
Yeah, but I mean, show me an achiever who doesn't have a mad streak in him. It's just a question of whether you can relate to it or how you react to it. So, was MS a huge influence in those early years?
Massive. All I want, through this journey, as I told you about how Haydos was batting, how Michael Hussey was batting, even the people in the reserves were a larger number than what you find right now, because there were more auctions for people outside. The domestic cricketers weren't picked on basis of auctions; they were picked on basis of whims and fancies of people who were seeing them elsewhere. So for me, I caught the eyes of Matthew Hayden very quickly. I caught the eyes of Stephen Fleming, Jacob Oram. As I was bowling to them in the nets, they found it difficult to face me, even in the first year. But somehow I hadn't caught the eye of MS Dhoni. For me, it was massive. Like every cricketer walking into every aspiring cricketer who you see on Instagram, who you see on Twitter today, think that once they catch the eyeball of, say, an MS Dhoni or a Virat Kohli or somebody of repute, they have a chance of scaling the ladder. That's how India is made. For me, it was no different. I had to catch the eye of MS Dhoni. So if I had caught the eye of MS Dhoni, I had the best chance.
So how do you know you have? Because he talks so little.
No, it happens through actions, and I didn't even till today. I haven't had massive interactions with MS. I haven't gone and sat in his room and had conversations to pick his brain. For me, it was all about going in the net and making sure I got MS Dhoni out. So it was like I would be waiting in the queue at M.A. Chidambaram Stadium, where there was a net behind the stadium, and one where they practiced right next to the match turf. So MS and Suresh always batted in the center. To be queuing up to bowl in the center to them was some sort of a yardstick. You didn't always get to do that. But once I did that for the first time, I was bowling alongside Muthaiya Muralidharan, and every time Murali bowled to MS hit the ball long. MS of today is a lot more calculative, but I had seen him then where he used to whack every single ball, and every time Murli dragged the length back, MS hit it farther. You know, there were at least 5-6 balls that used to scale the roof of the MH Chidambaram Stadium. I hadn't seen anybody hit the ball beyond, that was very, very new in that era. And to hit sixes was something that we were not taught as youngsters. Forget about as bowlers being tormented to that degree. And whenever I saw Murli do it, I told myself, I didn't think, oh my God, this is tough. I used to think, okay, Murli is getting hit, but if I bowl better, I might play ahead of Murli in the game. It is just the way I think everyone wires themselves. And it was not like I trained myself to be wired that way, but I never saw myself inferior to anyone walking beside me. That's how it worked.
You once told me an interesting story about MS. I think you bowled a super over that you were not meant to bowl, and then suddenly he threw the ball to you. It didn't end well. Some super overs end well and some don't. And you spent a couple of nights, you said, wondering about how that's going to pan out until he gave you the first over. What was that? Yeah, next game.
See, my biggest scar and biggest learning from this game. We were playing in South Africa, and we were playing the Victoria Bushrangers, and the game ended in a super over. I think I had picked up 1 wicket. I can't exactly remember which I'm really.
I'd be surprised if you did anyway. Huh?
No, but I'm actually worried that I can't remember what exactly happened. I think I might have picked up a wicket or maybe not through the game. And the moment the game ended in a super over, it was like, I think Raina bowled the last over and got us to the super over. I could be wrong in terms of exact thing of it, but we were standing in a huddle, and I think Fleming just ran in. There was a quick meet-up or something like that. And as they were all talking, I just put my hand up and said, I want to bowl the super over. Nobody volunteered to do that. There was Doug Bollinger, there was Murli, and obviously it was not in their vision to say I will bowl the super over. But for me, it felt like an opportunity, of trying to land a game and win a game for the team, and then go to, because what had happened before that was a journey in 2008 and 2009. From 2008, I had actually become a better cricketer after the stint with CSK. In 2009, I was genuinely hoping for an opportunity, but I didn't get it. I just got an opportunity sparingly. And 2010 IPL, I had been a very, very critical part of CSK winning that campaign. And going into the Champions Trophy, I thought, okay, here is my stage. Here is a super over. I had no idea. I think I must have been really crazy. If I think as a captain even today, to bowl a spinner in the super over is not the greatest of ideas. And somewhere I just put my hand up, knowing nothing about what was going to...
and he said yes.
And he didn't even think. He just stopped the meeting abruptly, gave the ball to me and went off. And thinking of it as a captain today, for a captain to do something like that to a youngster, I think I came into MS Dhoni's peripheral in 2009, where we played a Challenger Trophy and I got him out and I celebrated, like a crazy young kid. I don't know how it went down with him. I caught him once at sweeper cover in the tournament and then dismissed him in the final. But it was like the biggest possession that I had then. So I came into his vision, and then this happened in 2010 and he gave me the ball. I bowled that over. I succumbed to pressure. David Hussey hit me for a 6. Then I started chasing the over. I started bowling quicker and quicker. Bowled the Yorkers. Didn't execute the Yorkers. And now, if I think back, I just told myself, what the hell have you done? You volunteered to bowl the super over.
Yeah.
The man gave you the super over. CSK is a team where you wanted to be a part of, wanted to be in the 11, and you wanted to be this performer, and you basically pushed your team almost out of the tournament now. The next game was against the Warriors, who were the front runners in the table. You had to beat them, and it looked like CSK's Champions Trophy had come to an end. I went to the game and we were warming up. It was a double-header, I'm sure. There was a game that finished in the evening and I was warming up. And Flem came up and said, Ash, so sorry, I missed something. As the game finished, as I bowled that 22-run over in the super over, MS just walked across. I was just hand on heads, and I was sitting down, crouched on the pitch, not believing what was happening. And MS just walked past me and said, "You didn't bowl the carom ball. You should have bowled it. You should have bowled it." And he just left. That's all he had to say. And Flem came to me and said, "Ash, you know what? You had an absolutely stunning year, and CSK is here, and you are a very, very important cog in the wheel, and you are why we are here today. So I would say, if you get an opportunity, in the opportunity you will be getting tonight, just go out there and enjoy yourself and back yourself to do what you're good at." And I'll tell you something. If I was the captain, I wouldn't have thrown the ball at a youngster who's just done what he did in the last game. And MS gave me the ball that night. We were defending. I don't think we were defending a massive score. And Davy Jacobs was the man who was hunted for then. He was in form. And I think Mumbai Indians picked him at the auction.
Correct.
So he threw the ball to me. And it's like...
First over.
And I bowled a decent first over. If I'm not wrong, I went for about 6 runs. And I think Davy Jacobs chopped one onto the stumps and the bail didn't fall or something like that. And it was like, just settled the nerves. And I told myself, if again MS gave me the over that mattered, I will go out there and express myself. I will look to pick up a wicket. I'm not going to ever again. And once I had bowled that over to David Hussey in the super over, I haven't bowled very many Yorkers as a defensive option ever since. And
but tell me, it's interesting. He wouldn't have told you during the over, a carom ball dal. He just backed you to bowl the whole over, because I'm intrigued by MS's captaincy simply because there's been a movie on him, there's been a book on him, but I don't think anybody knows MS. I mean, for me, if someone told me this is the last interview you'll ever do in your life, I would say MS, because I don't think anybody still knows him.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting that you asked me that, because now after that I have been a captain myself. I go to the bowlers. But truth be told, I think he makes his assessment of certain cricketers once he uses them in the team, or even before he gives them an opportunity in the team. And I think his assessment of me would have been that this guy is very independent, and that's the only reason I think he might have not walked down to me and told me that. You know, why was I thinking that I shouldn't bowl the carom ball, and why did I back myself to bowl a Yorker? If I have to unravel my own mind to that, I'm quite intrigued, because I don't know, I must have backed my Yorker more than the carom ball, or I must have not had a lot of options. But one thing that MS always maintained with me through my career, despite a lot of experts talking about it, a lot of ex-cricketers talking about it, about how I try too much, how I'm not keeping it simple, how I don't bowl, whatever. I mean, it's their own misconception or whatever it could be. MS has always maintained that you are exceptionally skillful and you should always keep doing what you're doing. You should treat yourself as someone who can bowl every single ball and have all the options in your arsenal. And whenever I've spoken to him, he's maintained that, and I think he believed that I would probably execute the right ball for the and that's why he gave me that over.
It's interesting you talk so glowingly about MS as captain. You know, for all the cricket you played with MS and this bond with MS, a very, very large number of your test wickets have come with Virat. And they're very different people, aren't they? They're very different people. So how was it playing with Virat? Because what, close to 230, 240, something like that? A lot of your wickets have come playing with Virat.
I'll tell you I mean, we've spoken at length about MS. But I'd like to narrate a couple of incidences when it comes to Virat. At the very early stage of Virat's captaincy and my bowling, it was just an extension of what MS had left behind. Virat will give the first option to me. He will be suggestive as a batsman, which I think is great, because a large part of my success came because of how I knew how to hold a bat and how I knew how to score runs, how I used to think as a batsman. Because the moment I started thinking as a batsman, I would ridicule myself as a bowler, saying, "Hey, this guy is expecting you to bowl the ball here.
Yes.
How the hell can you be so foolish to deliver it then?" You know, that's the first train of thought. And when Virat gives you a perspective of a batsman, it gives me the understanding in a depth of detail, but I still have the autonomous nature in me to say, I want this, I don't want this. But there are a couple of incidences which I'd like to point out to you. And I told this recently to Virat, even on the tour of New Zealand. There is, as you start playing cricket, there is a little bit of scar that you develop, you know. As a bowler, I'm thinking, if I bowl the good ball, this is where it will go. If I bowl a good ball and if I err on the shorter side, this is where it will go. If I bowled a good ball and if I err on the fuller side, this is where it will go. And if it is a great ball, this is where I will get the wicket. You know, these are the four parameters I'm thinking at the top of my run-up. And Virat is very different in when he gives you certain suggestions. We were on the first away tour of Virat as a captain at Sri Lanka. And I was going through this unbelievable spell at Gaul, where whatever I dreamt of was happening, you know. The ball was coming out of my hand. As I was making contact with the floor, it was leaving my hand. It was landing exactly where I wanted. The drift was controlled to the extent about how much I wanted it to drift. The arm ball was falling like a dream. And every time the batsman edged, it was going to a fielder, So during this spell, I think Jahan Mubarak walked to the crease. And there was a point, a cover, an extra cover, a mid-off, a mid-on, and a square leg in place. That makes it 6. Slip, gully, and silly point, which is natural. And Virat picked out the extra man at cover and put him at leg slip. So I said, okay. And then he said, Ash, you should have a short leg also. I said, okay, let's make the leg slip into coming at short leg. No, I think you should also have a short leg. And he removed covers. And he said, you should bowl a carom ball. The covers is open. There are no fielders there. I said, no, Virat, the ball's coming out nicely. Let's challenge it. Spinning also. And he goes like, no, you bowl the ball. You bowl whatever you want to bowl, but there is no covers. I said, Virat, there is no covers for a left-hander. The ball's turning away. There's no covers. And he's like, Ave, chal na dal. Choka gaya to gaya. And I said, okay, what's there? And I went and bowled the ball. And you won't believe, Jahan Mubarak actually, the ball pitched and straightened. It went straight to short leg. And I was like, really? I would have never done that in the teams. Because if I was the batsman and Rangana Herath was doing that to me, I wouldn't be thinking of a defense. I would just try to push it to covers irrespective of where it came and run for a single. Mubarak blocked it, it jumped out, it drifted, it went to short leg. And in the tour of New Zealand again, the ball wasn't spinning a lot and Henry Nicholls was on strike. I went over the stumps and wanted him to move into the line so that I can challenge his pads and go around the wicket again. And I went, after bowling over the stumps, moved around the stumps. And it was not spinning at all, and the batsman was playing at ease. Virat removed the covers and put him at gully. And Nicholls nicked it straight to gully. And I was like, why didn't you remove mid-wicket and put him at gully? Why did you remove covers and put him at gully? He said, no, the ball is not predominantly spinning, so the chances of the ball going to mid-wicket is higher, and if he looked to cut the ball, he might get bowled. I wouldn't have bought that theory, but he's bringing a batsman's theory to it. So he's very different. He brings a batsman's perspective to the game. So I think both of them are very different.
Yeah, very interesting that you're telling me this because, from looking at it from the outside, you get the impression MS was the spinner's captain, whereas Virat is the fast bowler's captain. Virat just seems to live fast bowlers and enjoy playing with fast bowlers. That's the impression from the outside.
Look, it's not fair to say that anybody's a spinner's and a fast bowler's captain, but I think if you are a captain, you must understand bowlers to a certain extent, Harsha. Being a batsman is very, very different to being a captain who can handle bowlers. I think that's why captains get better with time as they are captain, especially if you're a batsman. But these are streaks of, let's say, brilliance with a little bit of craziness to it. Because these are theories that nobody will buy. If Virat had told me this, I just narrated you 2 instances of how it's possible. But many a times, like for example, how David Warner got out in the first innings in Bangalore, where he got bowled out, we moved over the stumps and started hitting the rough and he got bowled. I would remember that game because I was going back, I was in deep sense of thought. We had lost the first game and I couldn't fathom the fact that Australia can beat us on our home soil, I was deeply in a state of, therapy, saying, how am I going to get my team out of this? And Virat was playing his game of PlayStation with Saha. And I went to his room saying, Virat, I think what's happening is Nathan Lyon got wickets in the first innings. The wicket was a little damp, I think. So somehow there is this sense of, people coming in from behind and saying Nathan Lyon got wickets and hence Ash should get wickets and we should roll them over. But I want to be in a state of, in my own cocoon where I can take this game forward in the way I would like to take this game forward. I think I want to go over the stumps to David Warner, even if it sounds defensive. We need to put this game on pause mode, literally pause this game without Australia resting the initiative. And I think both Warner and Renshaw have practiced a lot of balls for off-spinners coming from around the stumps. So I want to change this game. He listened to my idea for a minute and said, he just started playing the game. Chal, do what you want. I have belief in you. That's it. And the next day, I started bowling over the stumps. I had a discussion with Anil Bhai. Anil Bhai wasn't really sure. He thought it was defensive. And I'm sure a lot of commentators might have also thought about it. But surprisingly, when I listen to commentary now, a lot of people agreed with what I was doing. That was one of those rare occasions. But despite all that, it worked. So I'm just saying, the one thing that's remained a natural constant across the games that I've played successfully, and it's sometimes also been a deterrent in my career in different ways of how people have judged me, is the autonomous nature in which the captains have dealt with me, and I've enjoyed that autonomous thing that I've been.
Yeah. It's interesting you talked about captain, because Saurav Ganguly told me once, might have been about 2 or 3 years into his captaincy, that in India we give our captains time to make mistakes, but we never give our captains time to learn from those mistakes and become better leaders, because we're constantly chopping and changing. And I thought that was interesting with what you said. 350 as a journey, it's one of the stats that just blows my mind. You've always been a very good bowler to left-handers anyway, but a lot of off-spin bowlers have to be good bowlers right-handers. There's a lot of bat catching that's happened over the years. I'm just looking at your numbers: 189 wickets out of 365 to left-handers. The great Murali got 191 out of 800. Have you bowled to more left-handers? Have you just got more left-handers out? What is it? 189 out of 365 versus 191 out of 800. I mean, first thing, that's you should probably bowl to more left-handers. But is it that you've been more effective to left-handers?
I think right from when I started to think I was a serious bowler when I was about 20, I've always bowled well to left-handers. But one statement from a coach that played a role in India's phase transfer, I would say, Duncan Fletcher, changed my dimension to how I looked at the game as a bowler. He told me cricket is all about geometry. That's the one statement he made and left it there. And I think there was a question on Twitter a couple of days ago when I was having a chat from a person saying, has engineering degree put you in good stead? Engineering in itself was a journey for me, but I think understanding angles of where to put fielders and what sort of lines to bowl on which sort of pitches really gives me the edge over some of the others. And I think I understand geometry and the angles that create more. For someone as tall as me, I hit the stump a lot more than I should be hitting the stump. And I keep the pads and the stumps interested. And that's what I think sets me apart. And I realize that. And that's why I say subconscious training helps me. So there are very, very few occasions in a game where I go and I'm lost. I don't know what to do. The batsman's attacked me. It's not like that. I'm so in-tuned into myself. I'm in a deep sense of meditation when I'm bowling that I know I can attach myself to the processes and connect with my processes and bring back my best rhythm and put the game under control.
I would talk to you for a couple of hours. I've kept you back longer than I intended to, and you've got things to do. We've just got 2 things before we finish. Are you the kind who sits back and says, okay, I started 2010, 11, I started then, it's now been 10 years. What's the best Indian team you've played with? Or do you want to wait till you retire? But I'd be very happy if you say, right, this is this combination of people, starting with Sehwag and Tendulkar and going through Pujara, Rane, Kohli, starting with Harbhajan at one end, Amit Mishra, Harbhajan, that kind of bowling at one end, to Jadeja, Kuldeep at one end. You've seen, actually it's amazing how much people see in 10 years, right? 10 years in the history of the game is a small amount, but how much you've seen?
Yeah, I just give you a perspective on what I think. This MS Dhoni's team set the path of excellence for India. Under Virat Kohli and our transition phase, we set the path of achieving this excellence to a large degree. This team is a lot talented, they have results and all that. But I would always, as a mad Indian cricket fan, revisiting my journey and watching cricket as a youngster, etc., I think that team under Saurav Ganguly set the path for this team. Yeah. Sometimes we tend to forget our forefathers. Every time at Independence Day, we think of Mahatma Gandhi. I think we should be deeply grateful to the path that they set, where they never laid down to, they never lay down to accept defeat. They started going abroad. I remember the game at Trinidad where Zahir Khan bowled that bouncer to Cameron Cuffy and we won that famous test. I won that Masters series moment where Ganguly twirled his t-shirt. I remember a lot more where they played the Champions Trophy and shared the trophy in Sri Lanka. And that team was remembered for the way they took the fight to this world, India was a big developing country. India was cricket mad. Kapil Dev had lifted the World Cup in 1983 and set this country rolling. But I think that team under Saurav Ganguly made sure that we can believe and also made sure that the next generation played the cricket with the fight that they should.
But listen, young man, you still got to play cricket. Okay? I notice you're doing these blogs about great matches of the past. I don't want competition to come from young off spinners, okay? So take your time on that.